Have you ever felt like you're playing a game, but you don't actually know all the rules? You know, whether it's at your job or when you're dealing with the government, it can really feel like these huge, powerful forces are just shaping our lives. Well, today we're going to decode that playbook. We're putting your rights up against the powers that be. So let's just dive right in with a big question. Who really holds more power over your day-to-day life? Your boss or the state? It's a pretty wild comparison when you think about it, because both of them have their own set of rules, their own powers, and, this is the important part, their own limits. So let's unpack these two arenas where the rules that govern us are made. All right, to really get this power dynamic, we've got to start right at the beginning. How do you even get into these worlds in the first place? The way you join up actually tells you a lot about the kind of relationship you're signing up for. Okay, so on one side, you've got the corporate world. Joining a company is usually all about a contract. You could be a regular employee, with some real job security, or maybe you're a project employee, kind of like a seafarer, hired just for a specific time. But then you look at joining the government. It's a totally different ballgame. Entry is way more structured through appointments or elections, and it's all governed by these super strict civil service rules. And once you're in, you can only be removed for a cause that is specifically laid out in the law. See the difference? One's a flexible agreement, the other is this rigid legal framework. Okay, so you're in. Now what? What kind of power do these places actually have over you? This is where we get to see their authority in action, and man, this is where the differences really start to pop. So, in the workplace, the big idea is something called management prerogative. Basically, this is the employer's right to run their business their way. For example, picture this. A company has given out a holiday bonus for 10 years straight, like clockwork. But this year, sales are way down, so they cut the bonus in half. Can they do that? Well, yeah, they can. A bonus is usually seen as an act of generosity, a management prerogative. It's not something you can demand unless it's literally written into your contract. It's how the boss steers the ship. So what's the state's version of that kind of power? Well, one of the most incredible and controversial is eminent domain. This is the government's fundamental right to take your private property for public use. Let's say to build a new highway or a hospital. I mean, think about it. That is an immense power that cuts right to the heart of our right to own property. But, and this is a huge but, that power is not absolute. This is where a critical check and balance comes in. The Constitution itself steps in and says, hold on, the government must provide just compensation. Now, the key here is how we measure that. It's not based on what the government gains, it's based on the owner's loss. That is a vital shield, making sure the state can't just take what it wants without making the owner whole again. So we've seen the power these institutions wield. Now, let's flip the script. Let's look at the power of the individual. What kinds of shields do you hold in these arenas? This is where that balance of power really comes into focus. Right, so even with that massive management prerogative we talked about, an employer can't just fire you on a whim. The law gives you a really powerful shield, the right to due process. This means your boss absolutely has to follow a specific, legally required procedure before they can terminate you for cause. It's often called the two-notice rule, and it is a cornerstone of labor rights. Here's how it works. First, your employer has to give you a written notice of their intent to dismiss you, and it has to spell out the reasons why. Now, this isn't the pink slip itself. Second, and this part is absolutely critical, you have to be given a real chance to be heard, to answer the accusations and defend yourself. Only after all of that can they issue the final written notice of dismissal. This whole process is a fundamental protection against being fired arbitrarily. Okay, so what about your shield against the incredible power of the state? Here, we're moving beyond labor law and into the very bedrock of our democracy, our fundamental constitutional rights. This is your arsenal. These are some of the most powerful tools a citizen has. Freedom of speech, of expression, freedom of the press, the right to gather peacefully, and the right to petition the government when things are wrong. I mean, these are not just some abstract ideas on a piece of paper. They are the active, real-world checks on government authority. This is how we, the citizens, hold power accountable. So what does it all mean when you put it together? It means that our lives, both at work and just out in society, are defined by this constant negotiation. It's a dynamic push and pull, a balancing act between the power of institutions and the rights of individuals.
And really, that's the whole point. Whether you're an employee, a manager, a regular citizen, or a public official, knowing the rules, really understanding things like management prerogative, due process, eminent domain, and your own fundamental freedoms, that is the first, most critical step. Knowledge is what lets you navigate these systems. It's what allows you to help balance those scales.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. In this constant push and pull between power and rights, in your own job, in your own community, what role are you going to play?